about 100 years or so, they're adopting Canaanite gods. They're operating in Canaanite ways, and very much acculturating to the local population. So this is less of a violent sort of attack and more of a slow process of integration that we see archaeologically. One of the sites that we have for example of the Philistines is at Tel Qasile. This is a 4-acre site that's near Jaffa, just inland from the Mediterranean Sea. And it's a great example of urban settlement. And it's a Philistine city that, unlike Ashkelon and Ekron, which were Canaanite cities and then were sort of taken over by the Philistines, this is a great example of Philistines starting a site anew. It's founded on virgin soil, and we can get a sense of what a Philistine city would have been like. The city has 3 occupation levels 12 to 10, and it begins around 1150 BCE. The town's destroyed around the 10th century. And as we can see here, again, it being a ready planned town, a town that's clearly planned from the start. It has clear streets, city blocks, and evidence of a lot of town planning. The northern section of the Tell, we actually find a very well-defined ritual complex here, surrounded by a partition wall and a Philistine temple. The deity, again, we don't know who this is dedicated to. We don't know much about Philistine gods. That's why we have Ashdod, for example. But this temple was founded around 1150, and throughout the successive phases, we actually see a progression of temples that you can see here, right from level 12 to level 11 to level 10. And as opposed to long-term tradition, we see a tremendous amount of experimentation taking place, right? Which is what we would expect with these newcomers who are reestablishing themselves, adopting Canaanite traditions while keeping their own traditions. This is something that we see at this temple. In the first stage, again, sorry it's a little difficult to see here, we have a very modest structure, about 6.5 meters square, with a single room surrounded by a large bench that runs around in a small central altar. There are actually layers of accumulated ash in the structure, an organic material that appear to be sacrifices made in the temple. Also, animal bones were found in the context of this first phase of this Philistine temple at Tel Qasile. In following phase 11, this structure, which was at first a brick structure, is actually replaced with stone walls. It's bigger. It's about 5.5 meters by 8.5 meters, and the doorway is now in the northeast corner. So one enters in through, get my mouse here, through the side, but it retains those central, what am I thinking of? Shelves for the placing of offerings, and the temple again is in the same area. Interestingly, there's a subsidiary chapel that's built behind it during this period, and that's not something that we see in Canaanite religious architecture, a subsidiary chapel in addition to a main temple. That is, however, something that's common in the Aegean and in Cyprus during the 13th and 12th centuries BCE. So again, a connection to the Aegean and Cyprus. In the final phase, in level 10, you can see the walls are actually reused, but actually an entrance chamber is added to this temple, creating a bent axis approach, and also the creation of a small storage room in the back. 2 cedar columns actually were incorporated here to hold up the roof, which have limestone bases as well. And you can see a reconstruction of what this temple would have looked like in the final phase at Tel Qasile. Not much in terms of cult furnishings from this temple. We have a few interesting vessels. This is a vessel in the form of a woman. It's hollow, its head is hollow, and actually when you pour it out, the liquid would have come out through the breasts. So probably not a daily use vessel, but one that would have had a cultic function. More Ashdota figurines, right? These sort of chair-like figurines that are close to Mycenaean examples of the same type. At other sites too, we see cult stands, such as this one, which actually comes from the site of Tanakh. This is dated to the 10th century, and it's about 50 centimeters tall. It's got 4 superimposed hollow clay squares to let light through, and it's probably an incense burner. This is something where you would actually burn something like terebinth resin in a ritual context in a temple. But again, you can see the iconography. It's drawing on Phoenician traditions. It's drawing on Near Eastern traditions. We've got this naked goddess, right, flanked by 2 lions, master of the animals motif, right, which we're very familiar with. In addition to this animal with a raised sun disk. Again, a lot of experimentation taking place as the Philistines establish themselves and adopt these new traditions while maintaining some of their old ones. So I think we'll stop there, the Philistines. We'll pick up with them again on Friday. Any questions about any of that material? Okay, all right, so if you haven't turned your second project into Tony, please make sure you do before you take off. And I'll see you guys on Friday.